Hello and welcome back to the Formula 1 chat. Today we're here to discuss the Miami Grand Prix. It's our review of all the action in the USA over the weekend. I have to say, not the most exciting Grand Prix, well, I was going to say of the season, but it probably was the most exciting Grand Prix of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it wasn't the greatest Grand Prix I watched, but, reflection on last week and a few of the other races we've seen this season, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, no. I think it's the first race, I believe, in Formula 1 history that we saw no red flags, no yellow flags, no safety car, no virtual safety car. Didn't even see a pit stop error. Every team got it spot on from the pits as well. The only minor thing we saw was a penalty for Sainz.
I was going to say,
because he sped, that was it.
Were asleep.
Well, yeah, they saw that and they saw Vries run into the back of Lando. And that's all that happened. Genuinely, those are the only times anyone made a mistake. But I think that's a credit to the drivers. Because they didn't, it's not the easiest track in the world.
No,
as we saw from Leclerc having 2 incidents in practice and then qualifying. So I think it's more of a testament to the drivers' performance than the boring nature of F1. But this season has been bland. Baku, we saw very little overtakes. This weekend was a little better. We got a fight for the lead, which could have been tasty, but the Red Bull showed respect, and I think that was... I think that's a good thing. I don't want to see a title fight where they're smashing each other off the road and stuff. But yeah, quite the well, not quite the interesting, but an all right race compared to what we've seen so far this season.
I think the midfield fight was... it made it interesting, obviously, with Verstappen, Hamilton and Leclerc all down the order.
Yeah.
Apart from that, those three cut through, which create an interesting battle with Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah, shout out K-Mag. We'll get onto him a little later.
But so it was all right, but I've seen better, obviously.
Yeah, what do you think of the Miami circuit? Is it the circuit that just doesn't breed good racing? Because, obviously, I'm not a fan.
I don't mind it. It's got 3 long straights, which you'd think would, make for loads of overtakes. But we did see a few DRS chains build up, which did surprise me.
Just sort of felt like every overtake was too easy or impossible to pull off.
Yeah.
It's like you're either sat behind and you can't get that move done, or if you're in a Red Bull, you just fly past all straight and then...
But even then, Max didn't. Max, or you brake a lot later than everyone else because you can, and you mince in the brake zone.
Well, that's the thing. It's just... It felt like for the quick cars, the overtakes were too easy, but for everyone else, they couldn't pull off overtakes because there was not enough difference between the cars to make that difference. So
such a gulf in quality. It's hard to get it right for both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Miami circuit's just not great. I think once we've had a few races there, once that track sort of settles in, rubbers in a bit, I think it'll be a more interesting spectacle. It's not a terrible layout. We've got the weird Mickey Mouse chicane, which if they stay for a while, if the track stays for a while, they'll probably bend that off eventually because people will get annoyed by it. But
But I just. it could have rained. That would have been interesting, but it didn't. It rained
overnight, didn't it? Which caused a bit of trouble. I think, but I just imagine if it hadn't rained last night or the night before the race, could that have been an even bigger issue? Because we saw how on the green track there is no line, but over Friday and Saturday they started rubbering in a line, and Max was talking about in qualifying how if you're not on that one specific line, you don't really have any grip compared to the rest. So if it hadn't rained, do you think we would have just seen a boring race, everyone following a line?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So
the rain did help, but if it had rained during the Grand Prix, that would have been even better.
Yeah, probably would have been something to cheer about. But
something interesting. Yeah,
this season's been a bit dull. I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is even worse than like prime Hamilton domination of 2019 and 2020." So. I don't know how I feel about it so far.
The reason I say it isn't like that is because it's quite interesting because we still have Max and Perez.
This is going to be my point. Winners. I think Perez can fight Verstappen closer than Bottas could fight Lewis.
Because Bottas is miles off, let's be honest.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It is now... It's 3rd place, and it's both Red Bulls 25 seconds ahead of 3rd place. It's not Hamilton, then 25 seconds to Bottas, then 10 seconds to someone else.
I don't think, though, Perez is seriously in the title fight. I know we've spoken about it in the last few weeks, saying he's there. Obviously, he's in the title fight. I don't think he can beat Max Verstappen. And you know what? If he proves me wrong, he proves me wrong. But I just think Max is too good. If you look at the races Checo's won, it's the 2 street circuits he's good at. He only took pole this weekend because Max was out of the equation. He only took pole in Saudi because Max was out of the equation. So and Leclerc was smashing into walls. So, it's the weekends where others underperform, he can swoop in, but I just don't think Max is going to underperform often enough for Perez to be able to take that and mount a title fight.
Yeah.
But you never know. He has shown he's got some decent pace. I think the next sort of run as we move into the European calendar, I think will either put him firmly into the title fight or show that actually he's not in the position to do so.
It's that European sector where Max really took the championship by storm
last year. Imola onwards,
and obviously we saw it as well in the 2021 championship. He took the lead through that European leg, and then we got to Britain and it evaporated.
Especially tracks like Spa and Zandvoort, of course.
Oh, yeah, Zandvoort.
They're tracks where he's got that immense home advantage. Like, the atmosphere is all charged
this year
towards
could be
Max
Checo's year to win Mexico.
Yeah, but we say this every year. We're going to stick him on the thumbnail again. We're probably going to put a Mexican flag in it. We'll go, oh my god, he's going to do it. He's actually going to win, and he's not.
He's got more of a chance this year than the last 2 years.
I don't know.
Yeah, he has.
Because I think there'll be more. If anything, the last year Max had the title wrapped up, so he could have let Checo win Mexico.
We're going to let him win. That's pathetic.
No, but this year they're in a title fight. He's not going to allow Checo to win. I don't know. I don't think though Checo wins Mexico unless Max is having a bad weekend, or letting him take the win.
I don't know.
Unless I think Max is. It's a track Max should excel at.
All right.
But yeah. Should we talk about all the drivers then? I think that's a lovely conversation on the wider topic of Miami and this season as a whole. But as we like to do, we like to run through the drivers in the first championship.
Devastated at the podium ceremony. No police escort or joke. It said what we've got is random buggies that look rubbish.
It wasn't American enough.
No, absolutely.
The whole weekend was very American.
My only thought is, are they saving the police escort for Las Vegas now?
Nah, mate, I'm convinced they're still going to whack out a roulette wheel, get the driver to put their trophy on it.
I cannot wait.
But yeah, I did like I've had a lot of conversation about the driver intros at the start, where they, LL Cool Jr., I'll be honest, not familiar with who he is. That might not be how you say his name either, but he did some driver intros. I thought they were alright. People kick it off about them because, it's, we know who the Formula 1 drivers are. It's a nice thing. He called out all the drivers. It's not a massive issue.
But hilarious who, called out someone completely different. Turns out they're racing today.
Yeah.
Pastor Maldonado's back.
But he got the pronunciations all correct. He was excited. I thought it was all right. And then obviously the other drama before we get into the drivers, the other drama that we saw pre-race was Jackie Stewart, which I presume everyone's seen this, but it was absolutely quality. Him fighting security guards to try and get Roger Federer.
That's not a combination of what I would say.
Yeah. But I know a lot of people are up in arms that there's security guards that don't know who Jackie Stewart is.
I mean, that is just...
At the end, what is it?
You're a Formula 1 event.
No, I agree that they should know, obviously, they should have a list, but I don't think that falls upon the security guards, because they might not be F1 fans, they're security guards.
Yeah,
so people kicking off, how do they not know who this legend is? If they've never watched F1, because he's a security guard, its job is to do security.
It falls on the people that organise security guards.
Well, I don't think that security guard is necessary. I don't think it's an F1 security guard, is it? It's a Miami circuit security guard. So he's going to be used to dealing with football fans and footballers, not used to dealing with Sir Jackie Stewart. He probably thinks a bloke in a kilt and, looking like he wants to fight people to get Roger Federer probably isn't a celebrity. But obviously, we love Jackie Stewart, legend, and it was great seeing him try and fight through to get Roger
brilliant.
Federer.
Absolutely brilliant.
But yeah, so looking at the championship then, we'll start with the bottom driver, work our way up, and we'll discuss their weekend, well, constructors order, but... Yeah, so first up, Williams, and I think we'll start with Logan Sargent because he definitely had the worst of the 2 weekends. Where did it go wrong? Probably a short question. Where didn't it go wrong for Logan Sargent this weekend?
Quality interests me because he wasn't off the pace. It was close. It was very close.
So he was 4/10 off Yuki Tsunoda in 18th, and he was about 7/10 of his teammate, which would have been progressing through to Q2. Oh, that's practice. Hang on. Yeah. Okay. Qualifying, he was 2/10 off the Vries in 15th.
2 tenths. That's not bad. That's just unlucky that 2 tenths difference between Q2 and last.
Yeah, but all the other drivers obviously ahead of him were a lot closer to Q2. So as much as it would have been only 2 tenths, you could say that for the 4 drivers ahead, and then he's not through. So
I don't know. I thought home Grand Prix he might have do something.
Yeah,
because he has got out. He got Baku. He got out of Q2 twice, but I think that was the Williams straight line speed on the straight.
Yeah, he was 3 tenths off his teammate Albon.
And that was P11.
Well, I know Albon was in Q1 was P14, P13, something like that. But then obviously in Q2, Alexander Albon.
Yeah.
P11, a good qualifying session by
he was
accounts.
only 600ths off George Russell.
Yeah.
Really close to Q3, and I thought he was on for a good weekend.
Yeah, it looked that way, didn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think it's where he kept... Well, we'll get
60. We get into the race.
Albon finished 14th. Sargent was a lap down in 20th.
Sargent had to pit on lap 1 to replace his wing, and that was
I don't know how that happened.
I don't know, because I didn't even see any visible damage.
Or we saw replays of the race start of De Vries forgetting, where his brakes are. But
still don't know where on earth he picked up that damage from, or how. Yeah. It was really bizarre, because there didn't look to be any visible, huge damage.
Obviously, he came in, pitted, changed his wing. Well, no, when he came to the pits, there was front wing damage, but I just don't know how he picked it up. But
yeah, so then as soon as he pitted, then his race was over. P20, Albon 14th. I don't really know what happened.
Well,
it's not a bad race.
10 seconds off the points.
That's not too bad actually.
Quite
he started P11.
Almost within DRS of Bottas. Considering Bottas started in the top, he was 8th, I think.
Well, to be fair,
he put
Albon 11th.
He started P10, so just ahead of Albon. So he sort of just stayed together all race. Because he didn't get to do a quali lap.
It's an interesting one.
In Q3, but yeah, Albon
not too bad from Albon. But when you had who cut through, so Stroll as expected, Hamilton that was expected. So you take those two, that already puts in P13. So not a bad race from Albon, but realistically from a Williams weekend, especially Sargent in his home Grand Prix, he'd have wanted a much better race.
Yeah. On to AlphaTauri then.
It was much better.
I was going to say a very poor weekend, 15-17 in quali. De Vries out-qualified Tsunoda for the first time this weekend. Obviously, Tsunoda's had a very decent season, I'd say, but De Vries has really struggled to adapt to Formula 1.
Yeah.
And that showed in the race as within 13 seconds probably of the lights going out, he was into the back of Lando Norris.
I don't know about Nick De Vries, because I thought when he qualified P15, got out of Q2, got into Q2.
Yeah.
I thought, tell you what, he's looked decent this weekend, and then he threw that all away by going into the back of Lando.
Yeah, so it was a horrible start. Lando obviously flew past him. Takes the outside, and De Vries just passes the back of him.
But it put those two as the back two. Yeah. And then in the race, if it wasn't for Piastri having a long brake pedal and Sargent having to pit for wing damage, De Vries was last.
Yeah, he's just not shown that ability that we expect him to come across. He wasn't a terrible driver. He's a Formula 2 world champion. He won the Formula E world championship as well, though that was still in the era of the mental qualifying format, so a lot of people don't consider that to be one of his greatest achievements. But he has shown he has pace over drivers who've been in F1 before. People like Antonio Giovinazzi have really struggled in FE, whereas De Vries was decent there. So I don't think he's a terrible driver necessarily, but he's really struggled with Formula 1. And you have to now have questions over whether he continues past the summer break. Because there's a lot of drivers who deserve a chance in Formula 1, and De Vries he's been given a chance, and he is not making the most of it, really.
No.
But I think it would be harsh if he's gone in the summer. I think they'd give him out to the end of the season and then probably bring in a Wasser or Hauscher.
How bad it is, I guess.
Yeah, and whether Liam Lawson's got a bit of time free at the end of this season, for the second half of this season.
Depending on how far clear he's in the Super Formula Championship.
Well, I think they'll be off the Super Formula Championship if he gets a shot in F1, but...
Man, that's this debate, choose Super Formula or Formula 1.
But, yeah.
Next.
The race has really struggled. Well, we haven't talked about Yuki Tsunoda. I think his race deserves some plaudits because he started P17 and ended just 2 seconds away from the points.
I didn't expect that.
In P11, a really strong drive.
And that's the problem for Nick De Vries, is he's so far off Yuki Tsunoda, who I know is in his third season, but there's a massive void between them.
There is. An incredible drive by Yuki. The fact he qualified one place ahead of Lance Stroll and stayed with him the whole race. In fact, Stroll was behind Tsunoda in what is a much quicker car. So, and that's a testament to Tsunoda's ability. I genuinely think he's probably the second best midfield driver right now in terms of form.
Ahead of who?
What do you mean ahead of who? Well, the other...
behind him.
Probably Lando Norris.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think
but I don't think
the fact he pulled...
Oh,
no. But the fact he's pulled any points from this season with that McLaren car is impeccable. But yeah, so who's next in the championship? We have Alfa Romeo. Now, that weekend was a little better. Well, it looked a little better at the start. It ended horrendously. Well, not horrendously, but not great.
I mean...
Qualifying, Zhou 14th, not a bad qualifying by any stretch. And Bottas few to Q3.
I mean, that's all they can hope for, really, isn't it?
Really, yeah. And then
that's their ceiling.
He didn't get to put a lap in because they were only going to do one run, and then Leclerc decided.
I mean, he would have been 10th anyway. Would he have outqualified?
I don't think it would have even come out anyway because there's not a DNF to his name. It's a DNS. I don't think he even left the pit lane.
Yeah.
I think they're going, well, we're not going to... To be honest, though, he wasn't going to outqualify either of the Alpines. Probably wasn't going to outqualify Magnussen, given how good he looked. So I guess they were just going to go, well, we'll save us out of tyres.
Yeah, no.
And then...
Makes sense. I
thought, because pushing for a lap in Q3, you could always, as we see, bin it in a wall. So it probably makes sense, yeah. Bottas didn't go out. Then in the race, a slightly less... very worse performance. Zhou dropped 2 places to P16. Snowden and Stroll, who coming forward, knocked him down the order. And then Bottas started 10th, ended 13th. Not really in the position to fight for points, is he right now? I don't think the Alfa Romeo package is very strong. I don't think Bottas is driving particularly well. There's just not a lot going on at Alfa Romeo, and it's interesting because at this point last year, we were speaking about an Alfa Romeo team and car that was fighting at the top of the midfield.
Yeah.
And was scoring regular points. I think they were 5th after the first 6 races. They scored loads of points. And there's some mental statistic, 90% of Alfa Romeo's points are scored in the first 6 races.
That is ridiculous.
Last year. Because they didn't do anything for the rest of the time. And clearly their car this year, not in the same position as it was last year. But yeah, overall... not a bad weekend given their season so far, but they would have wanted to take something from a P10 start, most likely. Up next then, it is the Haas team. Now, a very contrasting weekend to the Alfa Romeo one because they had a really strong performance. Kevin Magnussen, P4 on the grid. Yes, it required a bit of fortune, but he deserves his flowers for what was a very good lap.
Second row start for K-Mag, and we know it hasn't been a great start of the season for Haas, but he had a good weekend in Miami. P4.
And, as much as we can say, it's all down to luck and stuff, his laps still out-qualified the first laps of Pierre Gasly, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, and by quite some distance, Esteban Ocon. But
it was a really good lap.
I know, I've read that as a 1:29.7, but it's a 1:27.9. Ocon was in the conversation. But he did outperform all those guys. He ended up P4. He, deserves... his plaudits there because he easily could have not put in a lap like that.
No, brilliant lap. Hulkenberg. I mean, where is he?
It's also a decent lap. P12, not horrendous.
It's not bad.
Yes, he's behind a Williams, which is never stunning.
Albon, with straight line speed, that Williams is pretty strong, and Albon isn't bad.
Yeah. Well, exactly that. So Hulkenberg didn't do too bad. And then I remember Hulkenberg was... Who was Hulkenberg fighting with for ages? I think it was Lewis, wasn't it? Right at the start, they fought for a bit. Kevin Magnussen, though, definitely a more interesting defensive job because Charles Leclerc must hate the rear wing of that Haas car because he watched it for 30-odd laps before he eventually made the pass.
Brilliant battle.
But yeah, Kevin Magnussen held off Charles for a while. Eventually, Charles got through. K-Mag ended up P10, though. A point scored for the Haas team.
It's a big point, and I think it's mixed feelings because... they'll take the point, obviously, brilliant point, but saying you started P4, would you have wanted to get more out of the race?
Of course you would have, but I don't think you can. I don't think that's realistic. Realistically, Haas are going to be scrapping for points. I think
I'd said ahead of the Alpines.
All the drivers, I don't know. I think the Alpines are much stronger package than the Haas one is. I think Alpine lead the midfield right now. I thought it might be McLaren after Australia, but they proved otherwise today.
No, they're good in Baku.
Yeah, I guess, and atrocious here. But yeah, so I don't really think he could have fought with anyone ahead of him. They all had a much better package, especially with straight line speed. We saw Hamilton come through the order, Leclerc, Verstappen. So I don't know. I don't think there's much more K-Mag could have done.
Yeah.
But overall, a point is a point, and that's huge for Haas, isn't it?
Hulkenberg, though, Dropped to 15.
P15, dropped 2 spots. When you consider Stroll and Tsunoda were coming through, that sort of explains where that went wrong. Because he was only then behind Albon and Bottas were the only other drivers between him and points. So, yeah, he only lost out to the 2 drivers cutting through. Overall, not a terrible weekend, but...
Better for Haas, much better.
Yeah, and Hülkenberg still has outperformed K-Mag right this year. So Hülkenberg 6 points so far. That was only Magnussen's 2nd point of the season. So they're having a good season, I think, Haas. P7, if they can secure that as a championship finish, they'll be more than happy with that.
Yeah.
But I think they could even challenge Alpine McLaren, because Alpine, whenever they're in a good position, decide to do something completely stupid.
Like blow up.
Or crash into each other. And then McLaren are either first or dead last. So, not a great weekend. Not a great season so far for either of those teams. Up next, Alpine then. Qualifying, absolutely superb. A 5.8, probably their best.
Brilliant from Pierre Gasly.
Probably the best qualifying they're going to get this season. Unless they have a comparatively... bizarre quality session, but yeah, 5th for Gasly. You would have hoped he was a little higher, maybe ahead of Magnussen. Only 2,000 separated them.
Double Q3 appearance, double points finish.
Yeah,
strong weekend for the French team.
Yeah,
they needed these points. They needed this weekend.
8 and 9, 6 points on the board. That takes them level now with McLaren, 14 points apiece. Who do you think? Yeah. Do you think that's going to be an interesting midfield battle to enter the season, or are Alpine too far ahead of McLaren? Or are McLaren going to bounce back really strong? We saw some upgrades in Baku, didn't exactly work here in Miami.
Alpine are absolutely clear.
Right now, yeah, but I think I don't know. McLaren, it's such a strange situation. I was so convinced they were going to fight near the top with, at this sort of time. I thought they'd really do well at the regulations, but they didn't. And I don't know really where they go from here, because I
know.
The upgrades aren't really working. They look
it's like someone took them off. Did McLaren... We'll get on to McLaren now.
Maybe.
Did they remove the upgrades for this race?
So P16, P19 in qualifying. Lando Norris was outperformed by Nick de Vries by a good, almost a 1/10 of a second. Not a great sign. Lando obviously in his fifth year of Formula 1. Yeah. Do you think he leaves at the end of the season then?
Depends how bad the car is.
Well, we can see how bad the car is, mate.
Someone's going to want him. B, he's on a long-term contract, and C, will McLaren let him go?
Is someone going to want him? There's the possibility that the greatest driver of our generation, Lewis Hamilton, retires at the end of this season. There's going to be an opening on the grid. I think there's one driver, a good driver that's stuck in a bad team right now. Lando Norris is that guy. Yeah, and I think Ferrari or Mercedes would jump at the opportunity to bring him.
Will McLaren let him go?
I think they'd have to.
Would they?
Yeah. I think if the teams are offering to pay
I'm so bad. McLaren might as well quit.
There's going to be a Phoenix contract that if a bigger team comes in, they just have to give that to McLaren. And I'm sure that those teams would pay up in order to get Lando Norris. But
yeah, McLaren would just have to give up at that point, because Piastri cannot spearhead your team.
No, but you can bring in another driver. They could easily go and get, I don't know, Magnussen back. So I don't know, someone like that could do a good job. They could give Tsunoda a promotion. Well, at the most of a relegation, but really poor weekend. 17-19, Piastri had car issues, so it's not really his fault. He's so far behind Lando, and then Lando.
Don't know what that was. Both starting on the soft to the pit within 5 laps.
Yeah, Lando only 9 seconds.
Genuinely, where was the logic behind that?
Yeah, Lando 9 seconds off show. Not exactly the weekend he would have wanted.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, on to the good teams now.
Yes.
Shall we talk about Ferrari? Because qualifying, there was a lot of promise thrown away by Charles Leclerc.
For me, mixed weekend across both sides of the garage.
Carlos Sainz, impeccable. P3 in qualifying, he couldn't take in a second lap. I think that probably helped him.
Done much better,
I reckon he would have been lower.
I don't think he out-qualifies Perez or Alonso.
No, I mean, he was 5/10 off Perez, a 10th off Alonso, probably could have got another 10th out of it, but yeah, overall, as a banker lap, he set a good one. He probably would have ended up a couple of places lower had Charles Leclerc not binned it, but yeah, now on to Leclerc, because it's an interesting conversation, isn't it, about Leclerc's talents. It's his 6th year of Formula 1, and we've seen him make the same big mistake at the same corner on the same weekend. there are a catalogue of Leclerc errors over the last couple seasons that have cost him dearly. He's clearly a driver with a lot of pace. Clearly a very talented driver. We've seen that. He was in the championship fight for a good 10 races at the start of last season. You just feel this is why he will not win a champion. Potentially won't win a championship. Because even if he gets in that sort of position, mistakes like this in qualifying cost his team dearly and cost him dearly. That gearbox may not be usable again because they don't know if it works or not. I don't really know how it works with gearbox allocation. Obviously, they had to change the gearbox, which is fine because they were still in there a lot of number of gearboxes. But I believe if they're going to inspect it, they'd have to remove the FIA seal thing that makes sure you don't tamper with gearboxes. I don't really know how it works, but I was trying to follow a discussion on Twitter about it. But yeah, basically they'd have to break the FIA seal, potentially meaning that that wouldn't be usable in the races anyway. So it's a weird situation for Ferrari and Leclerc that he keeps having all these incidents. Why do you think it is? Is it a matter because I saw someone claiming he pushes too hard because the car's too bad, but I don't think that's reasonable.
Yeah, no, I think my point would be is because we saw it last year in the championship fight is I think you don't have to push 110% all the time to be quick.
Yeah.
Because you look at last year, or that crash in France that he had, Max Verstappen put him under a little bit of pressure, and he immediately started pushing more than he needed to, and it backfired.
But also, this one was a really weird crash. So you see the initial snap, he loses the car. Then the second snap comes because he tries to overcorrect. He tries to correct it. Actually, what would have just been quite a tame spin gained a lot more velocity, and he hit the wall with quite some force.
He flew that. He hit that wall, and that wall was very far away from the track. He covered a lot of distance.
Well, he did the same in practice, didn't he? But in that one, he went head on, and I was confused as to why he didn't do that again.
Yeah.
Because actually, by spinning the car round, I think he tried to use the brakes to slow the impact, but he spins, hits the car with his rear, and that is probably what caused the gearbox damage. Because you don't hit something head on and ruin the back of your car. So I don't know. I don't know why he decided to try that. I guess in the moment you don't really think.
But he's got to iron out these mistakes.
Yeah.
They're costing him. Like this weekend, he got stuck in the midfield fight in the race. And only managed to
he
finish.
was sat behind Magnussen for a while. I don't know. I think that's necessarily his fault. I don't think that Ferrari package, the fact it couldn't overtake the Haas easily, says a lot. But yeah, he needs to eradicate these errors from his game.
6 points for him in the race. It wasn't great, but Sainz, not great either. Really.
P5. The fact that Russell, who started P6. Caught up to you.
I mean, the 5-second penalty was sloppy. Speeding in the pit lane, that's a rookie error.
I don't know what happened there. He just went in with way too much speed, locked up both.
Trying to slow it down.
Yeah, locked up both fronts going into the pits.
Don't get he made that mistake.
Yeah, it's a bizarre
I get you
one.
try and maximise every single second you have at max speed, but why are you flying like that? Do you
think this is why Ferrari, despite having a good package over the last 2 years, haven't really laid the glove on Red Bull?
I think this is the first race, where for me it wasn't down to the team. I don't think the team got it wrong, but I think it was more driver error this weekend.
Yeah.
That actually cost them. And
you could argue that the Ferrari team haven't produced a car that can actually challenge anyone.
They could beat Merck this weekend.
Yeah, and then they lost out in that regard, I guess. But yeah. Not a fantastic weekend for Ferrari, but they still brought home some points, which is crucial because they
16,
that keeps them in the conversation of the top four. Mercedes then, they got 1 point closer to Aston Martin this weekend, but not a good weekend.
I think it's be different sides of the garage.
Lewis Hamilton,
very sad.
A very poor qualifying.
Shocking.
And Russell was very close to disaster as well. He's only 600s ahead of Alexander Albon in Q2. So they easily could have had a double knockout in Q2.
Yeah.
Which would have been quite shocking. Luckily for Mercedes, Russell got through. And then again, luckily for Mercedes, Russell qualified P6. But he was quite fortunate because Leclerc was sat behind him, probably would have got ahead of him. I don't know if he probably would have got ahead of Magnussen and Gasly though. But
maybe.
Yeah, P4, P6 and P13, they managed to bring home a 4-6. I think that's a very good day's innings for Mercedes. Fourth for Russell.
Hamilton did well to get back through, and Russell P4. That's really what they're going to hope for with both Red Bulls and Alonso.
Yeah, I think he really got the most out of the car possible this weekend, George Russell. Yeah. I mean, yes, we heard him constantly on the radio, and that was quite annoying. Don't know what the F1 broadcast has with George Russell, but yeah.
I mean, when he thought him and Alonso were really close to Perez, and actually Logan Sargent going.
Why do we need to know that?
Exactly, I didn't know that. But also, how's he got them wrong? He really thought Perez was that close.
Yeah, exactly. Alonso knew because he was watching.
Yeah, Alonso was going to kick out.
He knew exactly what was going on.
Yeah, 4-6 for Merck, not a bad weekend at all.
Good recovery from Lewis.
Yeah.
Because he was in a really poor position, he managed to recover that quite nicely. Up next then, Aston Martin, contrasting performances again here. Lance Stroll, P18. And is this the sort of thing where we've spoken in the past how Stroll could limit Aston Martin's ability to progress as a team? Is this the sort of thing where you go, if that's not Lance Stroll, do Aston take like a 2-3, 2-4
I'm
this weekend?
Still adamant that he is not good enough to fight at the front. He's a capable driver, but he's a capable midfield driver.
I don't think Lawrence is going to drop his son.
Exactly. But you put both Astons up there with Max cutting through. If those two can work together, they could get a double podium. They could at least a 3-4.
It says a lot about Lance that no other team in the top lot's ever really looked at him. We constantly hear but if Ferrari wanted Lance Stroll, Ferrari could probably tempt him over from Aston Martin. No. I think Lawrence would have a few be a bit of annoying, and I think that is actually limiting.
Try and buy Ferrari.
I think Lawrence limits Stroll in a way.
Because he can't do anything.
Well, as much as he gives him a free seat in F1, which is quite nice. That's pretty nice thing to do. Yeah, I do think it limits his. Even if Lance was a superb driver, I think Lance is a good driver, and I think he'll only get better. If he was a superb driver, no team would take him on, no top team, because you have so much politics with Lawrence involved.
Yeah.
But Lance proved this weekend he's not the calibre of driver that Aston Martin need to progress. It will be interesting to see whether Lawrence prefers his son or business. Because if he cares about his team and Aston being successful, Lance Stroll won't have a seat for much longer. But I still think he's a capable driver. Even if he was to be dropped by Aston, I could see another team picking him up because I think he is a good driver.
Yeah.
He will probably stay at Aston forever though, won't he? Mm-hmm. And then at the other end, Alonso, P2, impeccable qualifying. He didn't really have the pace.
Keeps delivering, doesn't he, Fernando?
Didn't have the pace to match up. Checo really. We knew he wanted to fight Perez from the off. He didn't really have the ability to do that. But I thought he did try. He did the best he could this weekend.
Race P3. And he's just watching.
It's the return of the we used to have the Hambot or
Allo.
Yeah, Hamverbot. Now Verper Allo because it's the
pervert Allo.
You can't say pervert. But Verstappen, Perez and Alonso, the new podium, really perfect weekend. Alonso took what he could from the weekend in terms of a P2 in qualifying, P3 in the race. Superb job. And then Stroll, he sort of just held on to the coattails of Yuki Tsunoda, which took him all the way up to P12. Not quite a points finish. A poor weekend by his standards.
Yeah. All right.
But and Aston Martin, as a result, only a point now. No, they lost a point to Mercedes. They're only 6 points ahead of them now in constructors, and they are 122 behind Red Bull.
Yeah, Red Bull, they're good, aren't they?
Yeah, so qualifying, Perez first. Verstappen obviously didn't set a banker lap because he made a mistake, and then couldn't set a fastest lap because Charles Leclerc
didn't matter. Didn't matter.
Anyway. Didn't really impact him. Max Verstappen took the win. It was a fantastic race, really, for Verstappen. His pace was superb.
Yeah.
Absolutely superb. Started on the hard compound, which many people viewed as the better of the two compounds this weekend. Better for racing. I don't know, though, because if you look at the second stint, he was on the mediums and he flew past Perez.
Yeah, the mediums.
Who were on the old hards. But
exactly.
It was a bit of a weird strategy. I saw someone on let me find Someone on our preview went back and commented last night after the race saying the result wasn't a surprise. Would you rather be on used hard tyres or new mediums for the end of the race? So did Red Bull cock over Perez basically?
No, because
I don't think they necessarily did.
Said that they knew that because if Perez starts on the hards there, Alonso gets him.
Yeah,
we saw the pace difference. Alonso would have got him, and maybe Sainz would have as well. And then you've got loads of drivers flying past him. But for Max, he needed to go longer. He needed to cut through. It made sense.
Yeah, and the hards really worked for him. He had some great pace. No mistakes really. Like he could have easily got caught up in a midfield battle. He was smart with his overtakes. A lovely double move on Leclerc and Magnussen. That was really nice. To be fair to
Perez, he did what he could.
And I liked the fight between the two of them because we've spoken about how it could get ugly if the Red Bulls are scrapping. We've seen in the past Verstappen's season 2021, of course, Verstappen and Hamilton together. That was a very dirty championship battle. But this was different in the sense that they both have immense mutual respect for each other, and they fought like that on the track. Yeah, they gave each other room, but they didn't give each other too much. Perez, by the way, the first driver actually to work out that going into the brake zone off the big straight, don't give Max the inside.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how 9 other drivers just allowed that to happen. I get they probably didn't want to fight with Max because they knew he wasn't really in their race.
That's probably got the second best team realising that they're not in the race to the top team.
Well, exactly. And they just don't want to get caught up because then they might have to fight the third team. So it does create this bizarre scenario. But yeah, Perez, he gave Verstappen a good fight. Ultimately, though, this always seemed like Verstappen's weekend to lose. He had the most pace, I think. We saw that in practice. He was probably clearly the quickest driver. I mean, 4 tenths ahead of Leclerc in second in FP3. So, yeah, very strong weekend from Verstappen and a deserved victory. And yeah, obviously he took fast lap as well. So, driver dubs and L's then, as we always do. L for the week, well, driver and teams, dubs and L's. L for teams. Is there anyone other than McLaren you can give this to?
No, rubbish weekend.
Yeah. Really, really poor.
It was. I think, not great.
A driver, L?
Logan Sargent.
Oh, yeah, he struggled.
It's a home Grand Prix. He didn't leave P20 all weekend.
Yeah, for me, it's either Stroll or for qualifying Leclerc. But I think Leclerc had the pace to be right up there. I'll go Stroll though because P18 in quali and they're not scoring points is not good enough in the second fastest car.
Yeah.
Driver dub, team dub, gotta be the team that came home in a 1-2, Red Bull.
I'm going to give it to Alpine.
You just can't. They had a good weekend.
No, you can't.
Sure.
You cannot give it to Red Bull.
We're going to have to because they score 1-2s every week.
I think it's relative to the team's performance on their season so far.
Okay. What do you think Red Bull could have done more this weekend, Harry?
That's what I'm saying. They can't overachieve, so it's their own fault.
So what they got to do?
I'm just going to give it to Alpine, all right?
To win Team W,
they've done well.
Got a double DNF and winner.
Double quali, double points finish. It was good.
Okay. Red Bull were ridiculously good. Driver W.
There's no answer. There's no other answer, is it? Verstappen.
I think the only reason I'm not going to give it to Max...
Sorry, you want to give it to Red Bull, but you don't want to give it to Max.
He made a mistake. It was not a flawless weekend for Max Verstappen. Of course, a fantastic race. Shout out Max, great drive. But you cannot be making mistakes like that in qualifying, in my opinion. I'm going Kevin Magnussen because he was quick in qualifying, took P4, and then held off Leclerc for ages, scored points in a Haas car that frankly shouldn't be anywhere near the points right now. Impressive weekend. Yeah. Very impressive weekend from Kevin Magnussen.
Alright.
But yeah, he would have been gutted he can't take more points from this weekend.
Looking forward to Imola now.
Wow. Yeah, well, I was going to say, it didn't provide the most exciting race last time. Then we got Monaco and then Spain. So look forward to that triple header in a couple of weeks' time. We'll be making previews next week, isn't it? So no racing this weekend, but there will be a video out on Friday. I think we're going to be talking about the F1 prodigy or the F2 prodigy that is Oliver Bearman, because we didn't do a Baku review and we need to because that was sensational from Ollie Bearman. So that'll probably be out next week. And then after that, loads of previews, loads of reviews. We've got so much F1 heading into June. So yeah, triple header up next. Yeah. Probably not the most exciting races. Probably Red Bull dominance. Join us for all of it. Yeah, not the greatest season so far, but keep the conversation going, guys, in the comments down below. We'd love to see your thoughts. I know there's already been loads of comments on our review, so hopefully there's loads of comments on the preview. I hope there's loads of comments on the review as well. So get involved in the comments below. Give us your thoughts on this weekend and the championship as a whole. If you want to support the content we produce, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new around here. It massively helps us out. That's all from us today, though. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.